Hi, everybody. Carrie Allen here. We're starting off in the year of 2022, and you'll notice that I am sadly alone as a host because we lost our beloved Austin Vitaliano. So I will be doing my best to fill in for him here on Humane Voices. I have been practicing my dulcet opera stylings, but we're going to compensate for his loss by having an incredible guest with us today. We've had a major challenge this past couple of years with COVID, but we've also managed to achieve some incredible victories for animals. So we thought the best person to talk to kick off our year is Kitty Block, President and CEO of HSUS and President of HSI. Kitty, thank you so much for being here. We are excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. And yes, it's exciting to be with you. I'm glad to be here. 2021 is behind us, but we had a lot of victories. And, people are saying, how did it go? This is almost the second year. And it's like, it went amazingly well for animals. The work we did, it didn't slow. And we continued to do great work and have victories. And even though we didn't get to celebrate in person, we really did a lot and more than I thought we could, which is so important given what's at stake here.
Absolutely. I think one of the things I wanted to get us started with, because I don't know about you, but my friends and acquaintances, whenever I tell them where I work, they always first think that I spend my day sort of cuddling puppies. So I thought we would get that out of the way and just say, in terms of victories this year, how did we do for puppies, Kitty? Did we snuggle them enough? Did we give the puppies enough love? Like what were the big puppy oriented victories we got to in 2021?
Well, we got to snuggle with our own puppies more than we do in the office, though we do have a great office policy once we get fully back there. But the work we do, it's much broader than that, obviously, because we do work with shelters and we do direct care and we go rescuing animals, dogs and cats in disaster situations. In fact, I was in Kentucky for the aftermath of the tornado. So we do the hands-on work and we get the warm and fuzzy. But what we really try to do is at a really big picture, how do we stop the pipeline of abuse of puppies being bred at these horrible things called puppy mills, which we've talked about? How do we keep them from going into pet stores, being sold while they're sick, while they're unhealthy? Unhealthy and really needing care and should not be in a window and sold. So what we really do is to cut that off. So these animals don't end up in these horrible situations to begin with. So we work to pass laws in states, and it's really exciting. We just got our 4th and 5th law, Washington State and Illinois, banning the sale of puppies in pet stores from these horrible puppy mills. And so fantastic. This is so incredibly exciting. It's so important. When you see these animals, customers don't know when they walk into a place, they see a cute puppy, they think, oh, I'd love to expand my family. What so many people don't know and what we spend so much time, really trying to educate folks on is you're contributing to this cycle of abuse, sadly. And a lot of times it ends up obviously not good for the dog, but tragic for the family because they bring home a sick puppy. So it's really about how do we stop this? And so now we have 5 state laws where these pet stores can't sell puppies from puppy mills.
Yeah, fantastic. And I mean, it's really great too, because I think a lot of the folks who are sort of going to stores, one of the things that I think is so important is just to remember that, rather than supporting that sort of inhumane pipeline, you can go to the local shelter, the local rescue group and get an animal who is, really in need of a home and do sort of avoid contributing to the bad thing and contribute to the good thing instead. So in terms of we've covered the squeezable puppy factor. So maybe we can move on to the animals that often get forgotten. I think one of the things that is a big thing that we focus on is getting animals out of cosmetics testing. And I know we had some major sort of work this year on that too.
Absolutely. So cosmetic testing on animals is so passé. I mean, it's so hard to describe.
It's incredible to me.
How unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably cruel. but it's entirely unnecessary. And so it's some of these holdovers that continue, these companies that continue to push for it. But not only is it bad for the animal, but there are better tests for humans. There are alternatives that don't involve animals, that actually are indicators of whether or not the product is going to impact humans in any negative way. So what we've been doing is, again, working state by state, country by country. We got Mexico this year.
Yeah.
Mexico, the first country in North America to ban cosmetic testing on animals. This is huge. This is an industry that burns through, churns out, tortures millions of animals, billions of animals on an annual basis if we go worldwide. And so Mexico banned it. And in the US, we just hit 5 states alone this year.
Fantastic.
7 states that ban cosmetic testing on animal and products that to be sold that have these. And of course, we always work, across the country as well, working in U.S. Congress, and we just got the Cosmetics Act reintroduced in Congress, and we have 900 companies, cosmetic companies and others backing us.
That's really exciting to have allies, in the industry. It's fantastic. No one wants to be torturing bunnies. I mean, no one with any sense wants to be torturing bunnies, right?
Exactly. So this is really exciting, and it's a campaign that's just growing and growing, and we're also making a lot of progress in Europe on this.
That's fantastic. And speaking of the campaign growing and growing, if any of our listeners have not seen the Save Ralph video, it's definitely worth looking up. Ralph, salute to Ralph the rabbit, really helped sort of put some momentum behind this campaign this year. Kitty, what else sort of stands out to you as sort of big things that happened in 2021 that you're excited about and that sort of forecast what we're going to be looking to in the future?
Sure. Well, we do a lot of work on protecting farm animals. And if we're going to talk about sheer number of animals, there are probably no more animals than farm animals that are living on factory farms and living in terrible conditions and in extreme confinement. And so, I know a lot of our listeners know how much work we put into Prop 12 in California, which is, the most forward-thinking piece of legislation anywhere in the world.
Right. And came into effect 2 days ago. So exciting.
So, January 1st, if you're had a big night out, New Year's Eve, and you're nursing a headache and you're looking for, something to dull the pain in your head, I'm like, big smile came across my face. As I was like, yes, just came into force. And it wasn't a given. I mean, because the industry pulled out all the stops. The pork industry fought us at every step of the way, in the courts, in the media, and they're going to go back to Congress. But
still fighting.
The momentum is there. They're not going to be able to stop it. And we now have multiple states. Massachusetts now just it came into effect also January 1st, which is some of the measures that California has. So it's banning cages for battery chickens that are put in these terrible situations for the eggs, mother pigs that are confined in these crates, and of course, veal calves, getting them out of these situations. So, and then we also just got Utah and Nevada this year adding to the cage free. So it's a wave. It's a wave that is just rolling through. And we do this work globally, as you know, and having lots of successes.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's interesting to sort of compare and contrast what's happening in the cosmetics industry, where we have so many industry allies, and there are places in the farm world where that is also true, where I think we have got some companies that are kind of recognizing the way the winds are blowing and doing the right thing, and then others that are just digging their heels in and just being like, nope, we won't change. And so I think it's on us, it's on consumers to sort of show them that they're going to have to change if they want to survive.
I think that's the key point, because these are companies that want to sell their products, and they've got to understand that this is what their customers want. I mean, if you look at how it passed in California, overwhelming. The pork industry has been doing everything they can to block Prop 12. They are spending lots of money to not do what their consumers want to be done. Humane standards for these animals. And so you if you're reading the wind or the tea leaves or whatever you want to read, you got to get on board and stop fighting it, because there's no stopping this.
Yeah, totally. So, Kitty, along with all the work that we do around policy, I mean, obviously, we've had a lot of we've had some recent rescue work as well. COVID has obviously changed a lot of things across the country, but we sort of tried to do some work around making sure that a lot of emergency services weren't stopped for people, that we were able to still deliver supplies. Can you talk a little bit about some of our recent rescue work and some of the things that happened around sort of like keeping people with their pets and all the sort of issues we've been dealing with on that front, which have sort of impacted the entire globe?
Right, exactly. So the work that we did around COVID, I always love to say that it didn't shut us down. It opened us up to so many new avenues to help animals and to help owners with their animals keep their families together. And so that's been such an important point for us. So we worked with Chewy and other companies to deliver millions of pounds of food, to set up pet pantries, to help with spay and neuters, to make sure that these animals had what they need and their owners have what they need to keep them together. Yeah. And so we did this in the US. I think we were from the East Coast all the way to California and everywhere in between, working with partners, delivering food, going door to door, making sure people had what they needed. And we also did this globally. We're working with the Mars company, who provided millions of pounds of food so we could help animals, street animals and other animals that just weren't getting the same food because everybody was off the streets, not in there, not any traffic to help these animals. So it is something that we spent a lot of time doing, and it was so important to do. But one of the things that really stood out was the bond between their animals and people during times of crisis.
Oh gosh, yeah.
When people feel, when everyone was isolated, scared, not sure what was happening, people turned more to their animals. I mean, we always turn to our animals, but it really just showed, what this bond is and what it means. And that's why if people were either evicted, we worked on an eviction toolkit for people that were evicted and they have animals. I mean, majority of renters, do have animals in this country. And so given everything that people are going through during COVID, the last thing they want to do is be separated from their family members, their dogs, their cats. And so we worked really hard to help keep them together through our Pets for Life program and our other programs.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done without my pets this past year. I mean, while at the same time, just like our families, they're driving us crazy. I mean, what would we do without them, right? I mean, I can see your cat there in the background with you right now. Hi, sweetie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that you may want to, we want to touch a little bit about some of the work that's been going on with fur, because fur to me is like one of those things, and I tend to go off on a rant about this, but I think, just along with the cosmetic thing, it's one of those things that I'm like, I can't believe people still do this. It's kind of why would you take this sort of vanity product that is so incredibly cruel and purchase something like that? But it is incredible seeing the momentum that's happening around fur.
It has been. It is. I mean, COVID actually, as you said, it did sort of expedite fur production because animals on mink farms in those conditions where they are confined and put together and living under incredible stress, they were contracting COVID. Yep. And it's not clear how they had it first from other animals in the area, or it was the people on the workers on these mink farms, but COVID was going back and forth. And because of that, because it was such a threat incubator, for COVID, a lot of countries, have stepped in and said, we're out. Netherlands expedited their closure.
Right. They were already planning to shut down, but COVID was like, let's speed that up.
Why hold on? And Italy just announced the end of all fur farming in the country.
That's fantastic.
All fur farming. And listen, when you think of Italy, you think of pasta and you think of, designers.
Yeah, fancy designers, right? Yep.
They're not.
But so many designers are like, we're out. We don't want to touch this stuff. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, I always say they're not just walking away from it, they're running away from fur. Like it is not where you want to be as a top designer. And so Balenciaga, all of them, Canadian Goose, all of these companies, Gucci, of course, all stepping away. And what's really exciting is that Elle magazine just this past year said, that's it. no, we will not advertise for fur. We will not cover designers that are showcasing fur in their line. I mean, that's huge. Can you imagine designers wanting to have that outlet and they're shut down because they're working with fur? So, and it's not just their magazines, which is global, but it's all of their media. It's all of their outreach and their social media. They know this is not what the consumers want to see. And so it's been so exciting and really just phenomenal. And then just this past year, so in 2021, the lowest in the US, since data's been collected of fur production in the US. So this is really amazing.
Yeah. So Kitty, I know that, we were talking about COVID and how it sort of impacted all of us, and particularly like the impact on fur, which is generally a good trend. Do you think, there are all these ways in which our work connects up with this issue? I mean, I think that there's still some debate around where COVID actually got started, but it's very clear that things like wildlife markets are a potential source of major zoonotic disease. And so I'm curious, like, where do we think we stand on these issues now? I mean, we talked at the beginning of the year to some of our in-house experts around, are we doing enough to sort of prevent the next pandemic? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what needs to happen in the future to make sure that we're not still in our houses 10 years from now?
Yeah, nobody wants to be in their house.
I want to never see my house again.
Yeah, this is so it's such an important question. And, thank goodness there's so much work to mitigate the harms of the pandemic. And there's been a lot of science and work and research and people are, for the most part, standing up and doing their part. But you got to look at what the origins of this are. I mean, COVID and which predecessor SARS, it's not the first time this has happened, and not the first time that we're hearing it coming from the markets. So a number of years ago, there was SARS, and that was in China, and that was civet cats, bats to civet cats in the marketplace. Now, it didn't become a global pandemic, but boy, it made a lot of people sick in the area. There was MERS in the Middle East, bats to camels. When you confine animals in these unnatural settings where they are crammed together, where they are stressed, some are even slaughtered right there, and they're stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen? You're creating these diseases. Yeah. And as far as diseases that humans have, it's something like 76% are zoonotic diseases, meaning we're getting them from the animals and we're giving them, we are animals. So why would anyone think that this can't happen? And so and again, it's not just the markets, it's factory farming. We've got
it's anything where you're confining this many living, secreting beings in one place. I mean, it's just gross. Yeah.
It's gross. And it's some like at what cost do we want to do this? It's not like, oh my goodness, will we ever have another one? It's like, when will the next one be? Unless we really get out in front of this. And, I remember when Fauci said something like, there's still, wildlife markets, we got to end these. And, and I couldn't agree more, but I wish there would be more traction. And so to that end, we worked, of course, in the US, but also around the world, saying, how you want to avoid the next global pandemic, and really talking about all of the impacts that confining animals in these situations are breeding grounds, are incubators for disease. And so we spent a lot of time, translating into multiple languages, making this resource available for countries and saying, look, you got to take this stuff seriously because no one wants to be back here. And it is the thing that I keep saying over and over again. It's like, we can't continue to think putting these animals in these conditions, like A is right, or B doesn't impact us, doesn't impact our health, our well-being.
Right. So animal issues are human issues, right? Like, that's the thing. They're inseparable. Yeah. So Kitty, I among all the amazing things that we've been working on this year and that our allies have been working on this year, I mean, we've gotten a lot done for wildlife around the country. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Absolutely. So, boy, we've done a lot of work on protecting wildlife, and they are, they have been a target, by the previous
especially. Oh my God.
Wolves.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like,
I know. Wolves are so amazing.
Incredible animals. And so we've done so much defense work to continue to protect them, stop the hunts. working to get them litigating, to get them, put back on the endangered species list so they can get, a modicum of protection that they need. And we have been really successful in it. It has been it's been a lot of hard work, and it's one we absolutely have to stay on. There is something that I don't know how many people are aware of, but there's something called killing contests. Like, could you be more descriptive?
Right. I can't believe that exists. It's like,
I know, right?
It's incredible to me. Yeah.
It's so many of these issues are mind blowing, but this one is, it's not tucked behind something, some nicety. They say what it is.
Yeah.
And this is an activity that people get together, hunters get together, and they go out for a limited amount of time. They go out and kill everything they can. So it's going to be fox, it's going to be raccoon, it's going to be deer. Yeah. And for that period of time, they kill as many as they can. They weigh the carcasses. Who won to see who won?
Yeah,
so you win by volume.
It's by weight or by number of animals. I mean, it's really just incredible.
It's incredible. But the great news is that we have gotten now 8 states to ban this practice.
Yeah.
Just wipe out these killing contests. And this is so important. This is one that we have really gotten in there. It's hoping to get it before it even spreads beyond where it has, but it's been really, hats off to our investigative team and our wildlife team who have gone in there, because it's gruesome stuff. It really is. Yeah. And they've just gone in there. But also on trophy hunting, we obviously Humane Society International, the UK just got measures put in for the strongest measure anywhere that will ban the import of trophy killed animals. It's 6,000 different species: lions, tigers, bears, zebras. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so now our team in the UK is working just to make sure all those regs get put in place. But there is movement on. This one's a tough one. This one, as we talk about some of the other issues, this one's a really big fight. People feel it's their, right to go out and do this. And without regard for the wildlife, for other people's right to enjoy wildlife. You see them in the wild. People don't own wildlife. They don't own the right to kill them. They exist, and they exist for all enjoyment.
So I'm curious, if you kind of look back on the past year and like all the victories that we've achieved, like going forward into the future, there's been so much change in this country. I think one of the things that I've been thinking through is, where the animal welfare movement needs to go next. And I'd be curious about your thoughts around this. Like if you were looking to, obviously the animal protection movement is an incredible, energized group and really full of passionate people doing good work. If you were looking to change something about it, if you were saying like, here's something that we should be doing that we haven't done yet, like where would your focus be?
The animal protection movement, as you say, is a vibrant, strong, dedicated movement, but it's not diverse. It really needs to diversify. Everyone cares about animals, but do people from diverse communities say, I see myself in this movement? I see how I can, feel a part of this, feel engaged. It doesn't mean just because they're not engaged with us that they're not, committed to their animals or thinking about the other causes. It's just, I don't know if people, of diverse backgrounds, diverse communities, they see themselves in our movement. And for the animal protection movement, and this is an issue for our own organization. I mean, it's an issue for the movement more broadly, but it is for our organization. And we think this is really one of the most important issues facing us. How do we make this movement relevant and engaging and have people who care so much about animals feel a part of it? And so we are taking steps internally to be more inclusive, looking at what we do, how we focus on it, what we message on. We're just missing incredible areas and folks of different interests that are just not engaged
or who may already be doing this work for animals, but we haven't connected with them yet.
That's exactly right. We haven't connected with them yet. And that is a loss. That's our loss. That's the movement's loss. It's the animals' loss. And so that's why this is really so important. This issue, this movement, has to be more inclusive. It has to grow. It has to grow and have diversity of thought, understanding individuals to really make us have that impact that we need to have going forward in the future.
Totally. And I would imagine that you as a sort of leader in the organization and in the movement, I mean, do you think a lot about how we're going to empower like the next generation? Like people come to this work in so many different ways. It's really interesting. Like some people just sort of happen into it. That's how I always knew that I was really interested in animals and cared about animals, but I got lucky in finding this cause. And it's like, how do we find the people that we can grow into the next generation of leaders?
It's an important question. I've always joked I wanted to do this video called like an epiphany video. And when did that moment change where something that you saw before, heard before, war suddenly changed and it was no longer the right way? And so I've talked to some people, and some people, have that moment. I've told the story about my dad. He had that moment, where the light bulb goes off and he was like, wow, not anymore. For me, it was more, gradual, and there wasn't one moment. But it's really also about how do we make ourselves, how do we make this movement accessible, not just to diverse communities, but the next generation, and really focus on making sure that we are reaching out, communicating in that way that brings people in, that brings people along. And so we are welcoming, and we are, it's so important to do that wherever you are. Like if you love your dog and you're kind of mad at your cat, welcome. You don't have to be, this is it. I am,
she's not talking about you, cat in the background.
I'm going to pay. I am going to pay for that. And my dog Lily wasn't even here to see it, so I didn't even get the extra point.
Right, sucking up to Lily with no need.
I definitely
love you, cat.
In the camera lens before I talk. But so how do we, continue to bring people in, and especially the next generation, the younger, they've got a lot of stuff on their plate. They're going through a lot in ways that, when we were growing up, we didn't have to go through something like this and navigate a COVID world. But I'm excited about those who are engaging with us. I mean, the next generation of folks, they are engaged, they're active, they take action, they care about what they eat and why, and they ask questions. And so it's really, to me, it's really exciting about, how we bring them in.
Yeah. How do we reach them where they are already? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really exciting stuff. I mean, it's one thing that I think is really interesting is how much these sort of issues translate across different groups of people. I mean, like the very activists that we are seeing just sort of coming into the movement are the people who are going to be leading it, in 20 years from now. And so it's great to see sort of the momentum around some of the people we're able to bring in, the very first things that you get interested in, these little steps turn into bigger steps, which is always fantastic to see.
And that is the key to it. It's like, what are the little steps and how do you reach people? And a lot of that is we do it, through, I have a blog. I write it by myself every day. No, totally joking. I have an incredible, person who works with me on the blogs and the blog team. But it is a way, if you just want to, you want to dip your toe in and you want to hear and learn some of the things. What the blog does is, every day when we work on this blog, you get the most pressing issues. You get the top line issue. And then what's really exciting is we usually let you know how you can help, how you can push that over the finish line. And that's really a way to start, engaging and learning. And so it really is, I think once, I really believe that when people learn about the movement and the animals and the power they have to make a difference, they're in. I mean, totally. It's such an important thing. So I do recommend, folks to look at the blog. It's really, it's not a long read. I mean, sometimes you have really pretty pictures of animals.
Yes. And sometimes we have really not pretty pictures of animals, but we won't dwell on those right now. And if anyone's looking for that blog, it's called A Humane World. So please take a peek at it. It really is a great sort of roster of all the most important things going on in the animal protection sphere. All right, Kitty, thank you so much for being with us here today. Since we already went through sort of the light stuff, like maybe we'll end with a couple of real hardball questions, So I thought maybe
I am your boss, Karen.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just checking.
I'll keep that in mind. So I know this is one of your favorite questions. Like what do you do for your hobbies?
Oh my God, you really Oh, I didn't think that was going to make it in. Are we out of time?
It's weird. Yeah, no, that's strange. Well, okay. Or we could ask you, I know how much you love the question. If you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? And so we won't make you do that one, but maybe if you were a flavor of pudding, what flavor of pudding would you be? This is the really tough stuff that presidents have to answer.
This is how we keep ourselves going. Flavor of pudding. Okay, there you go. Wow. Well, I will say chocolate, because chocolate is my life, and maybe that's a hobby too.
Yeah. That's a good point. Right. Yeah. Chocolate can be both a flavor and a hobby. I totally agree.
It can be so many things.
Yeah. It is a necessary hobby in this work, I think. Yeah. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being with us here today on Humane Voices. Kitty Block, thank you so much for making the time for us. We're really excited about the new year. We're also excited that 2021 is over. Let's hope 2022 brings better things for everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Austin. Sorry you're not here with us anymore. We'll find a suitable replacement soon. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing you next episode.